Good day, everyone. I am Miss Simi Arcolandog, and I will be discussing the first part of Module 2, and the topic is all about the organizing process. So, first, I will discuss what is organization all about. Organization. When we say organization, it refers to groups of people with ideas and resources working toward to its common goals. The organization have a management structure that determine the relationship between different activities and member, and the members are divided into their different jobs or roles in organization. And the purpose of organization is to let together you and your group in order to achieve a certain goals and to do the task efficiently and effectively. Here's the two types of organization: the formal organization and the informal organization. So, the first type is the formal organization. It is an important aspect of structure, and it is very structured in order to reach their stated goals. And their organizations are explicitly defined, and its policies, procedures, and also their goals are clearly stated. And the concentration of their organization is more on the performance of jobs and not on the individual performing their jobs. And it can be presented in a chart form. And here is the example of chart form of formal organization. As you can see in the chart form, it displays the organizational structure that shows the job titles and the line of authority and also the relationship between departments. And the next type is the informal organization. When we say informal organization, it is the network unrelated to the firm's formal authority structure of social interactions among its employees. And the informal organization does not have any well-defined tasks. And the membership in informal organization is voluntary. And let's proceed to organizational structure. When we say organizational structure, it is the formal decision-making framework by which the job tasks are divided or grouped and coordinated. The organizational structure is a system that outlines how the certain activities are directed in order to achieve the goals of an organization. And the purpose of this organizational structure is to determine how the information flows between the levels within the company. Here is the twofold system of organizational structure: the mechanistic structure and the organic structure that was developed by Tom Burns and G.M. Stoker. When we say mechanistic structure, it is the traditional or a classical design that is common in many medium and large organizations. It consists of very clearly delineated jobs, have a well-defined hierarchical structure, and in mechanistic structure, the employees are work separately and specialized in one task. And this structure is more on written communication. This structure is the organization is a network of positions that typically each person is corresponds to one task. And the last one is the organic structure. It is more flexible, more adaptable to participative form of management. This structure is less concerned with a clearly defined structure. So, when we say organic structure, the organization is network of persons or a team. The people are work in different capacities at one time and they work overtime and the employees are work together and they coordinate a task. And this structure is much on verbal communication.
Everyone, I'm Marisa Maralpes, and today I'm going to report the continuation of our report. It's all about our organizational design. First is, what is organization design? Designing an organization involves choosing an organizational structure that will enable to the company to most effectively achieve its goals. Organization design is the creation of an organization structure traditionally functional, divisional, and or matrix. Organization and design is a human-centered approach to improving how people work together and how companies respond to change. When you apply design thinking to the way companies behave and change it's called organizational design. Mahalaga ang organizational design dahil nakakatulong ito to improve our communication skill, tumataas pang pagiging productive natin bilang isang individual, na nakakatulong naman upang mas lumago ang isang company. Mayroong types ang organizational. Ang una is functional organization. Functional organization, authority is determined by relationship between groups, function, and activities. A functional organization is a common type of organizational structure in which the organization is divided into smaller group. Meron akong example yun sa screen. Nakita dito na ng isang organisasyon ay nahati into smaller groups. Sunod naman is ang divisional organization. Divisional organization. In a divisional organization, corporate divisions operate as relatively autonomous businesses under the larger corporate umbrella. Example nito is yung mga General Motors, Chevrolet, Oldsmobile, Pontiac, and Cadillac. Pag sinabi namang divisional organization, it is a type of organization structure that group each organizational function into division. Each division contains all the necessary resources and function within it to support that product line or geography. Meron din akong example yun sa screen na makikita nyo kung paano nangyari yung divisional organization. Organization usually consists of several parallel teams focusing on a single product or service line. Next is the matrix organization. In matrix organization, it is form that allows the organization to take advantage of new opportunities. This structure assigns specialists from different functional departments to work one or more projects being led by project managers. In matrix organization, there are usually two chains of command, one along functional lines and other along product and client lines. Dito naman sa organization na to, sinasabing sa isang structure na kung saan higit pa sa isang reporting manager at mga empleyado ay mayroong higit pa sa isang boss. This type of structure is used in organization which have diverse product lines and services. Dito naman sa matrix structure, sinasabi na higit pa sa isang boss lang yung kumbaga yung nagpapatakbo ng isang negosyo. Marami sila. Matrix structure is designed to be partially impermanent. Meron din akong example ng matrix organization. There are two kinds of managers. Una is yung functional managers. When we say functional manager, ito yung mga mag-manage ng tao. Next is the project managers. Project managers, ito naman yung mga nagmamanage ng resources, asset, necessary for successful project sa isang company. Sunod ay ang boundaryless organization. Boundaryless organization are not defined or limited by horizontal, vertical, or external boundaries imposed by a predetermined structure. From the word boundaryless, ibig sabihin, there is no boundaries, walang level kasi nga open sila. In this organization that seeks to remove vertical, horizontal, and external barriers so that employees, managers, and customers or suppliers can work together, share ideas, and identify the best course for the organization. When we say vertical boundary, it creates barriers between the different levels of management that are part of the structure of an organization. This is called vertical boundaries since they impede communication, interaction between organizational members who operate at different levels within the organization. While the horizontal boundary create boundaries between the different functional departments that are part of the organizational structure, and it can cause organizational members to focus on achieving the goals of their department while losing sight of the overall goals of the organization. Ngayon, dadako naman tayo sa organizing function. What is organizing function? It deals with all those activities that result in the formal assignment of tasks and authority and a coordination of effort. Organizing function, it is a function that managers undertake to design, the structure, and arrange the components of an organization. Meron ding steps in the organizing process. First is review plans. Importante na inaaral o nire-review muna natin ang plano sa isang business upang makatulong din tayo. Because getting your business plan reviewed lets you share and discuss your option and plans with an expert. Second one is list all tasks to be accomplished. Organizing your tasks with all a list can make everything much more manageable and make you feel grounded. Siyempre, mas maganda na gumagawa tayo ng listahan ng mga bagay na natapos na natin at yung mga bagay na gagawin pa lang natin. Para makatulong na rin to make you feel organized and stay mentally focused. Next is, divide tasks into groups. As a manager, syempre, you need to divide all the tasks into groups because it saves your top performer from burnout, and an important part of your job is making sure that everyone on your team has the right amount of work. Next is group-related jobs together in a logical and efficient manner. Teamwork. Napaka-importante nito sa isang business or organisasyon because it helps employees with an opportunity to bond with one another. Next is assign work to individuals. Katulad nga ng sinabi ko kanina, kailangan bawat isa ay may ginagawa. Dahil dito, mas may papakita pa ng employees or may improve pa nila yung kakayahan nila kung bawat isa ay may gagawin. Last one is delegate authority to establish relationships between jobs and group of jobs. Managers need to delegate because they are not supposed to do all the work themselves. Managers are responsible for developing their employees to ensure that they are well trained to identify future leaders and to prepare their own successor when they move up or move on to another organization. Next is the division of labor. Our work specialization is the degree to which tasks in our organization are divided into separate jobs. Division of labor is to enable the best use of different skill sets. Example neto is, para mas madali nyo maintindihan, is yung food gathering. Diba in early societies, men will be the hunters and women and children would prepare the food. The idea was, it was a very simple. Division of labor, it is the separation of a work process into a number of tasks with each task performed by separate person or group of person. Kumbaga, yung bawat isa, yung bawat isa sa miyembro, may kanya-kanya tayong ginagawa. May kanya-kanyang task na binigay sa atin. At doon natin na ipapakita kung ano yung nagagawa at mas may improve pa natin sa isang trabaho. Next is workflow analysis. Looks at how work moves from customer or the demand source through the organization to the point at which the work leaves the organization as a product or service to meet customer demand. Dito naman sa workflow analysis, it is the process of breaking down the performance of workflow and examine trends for improvement. Meron din akong example nito na nasa screen natin ngayon. Doon natin sila makikita. Next naman is ang Business Process Engineering or BPR. A fundamental rethinking and radical redesign of business processes to achieve dramatic improvements in cost, quality, service, and speed. As you can see, business process engineering is focusing on the analysis and design of workflows and business process within an organization. Nakapokus lang siya sa takbo ng pag-design ng organization kung paano pa ito mas mapapaganda. At iyan dyan natatapos ang aking topic. Sana ay mayroon kayong natutunan. Salamat!
Good day everyone, my name is Crystal May Candelario. So I will discuss the next topic of the organizing process. Departmentalization. Departmentalization is the basis on which work or individual are grouped into manageable units. So sabi dito, ang departmentalization, ito yung nakagrupo yung gawain or yung mga trabahador sa mas maayos na unit upang mas mapadali ang kanilang gawain. So, there are 5 traditional methods for grouping work activities. The first traditional methods for grouping work activities is first is departmentalization by function. Departmentalization by function. Organize the function to be performed. The function reflect the nature of the business. So, sabi dito, ang departmentalization by function, ito yung nakagrupo o nakaayos depende sa function ng gawain. Next is departmentalization by product. Departmentalization by product assemble all functions needed to make and market a particular product are places under one executive. So, sabi dito, ang departmentalization by product, ito yung nakagrupo depende sa pangangailangan para ma-market ang isang specific na produkto upang mapadali yung pagpili ng mga customer. So, major department store are structured product groups such as home accessories, appliances, women clothing, men's clothing, and children's clothing. Third is departmentalization by geographic region. Departmentalization by geographic region are groups job on the basis of territory or geography. So, sabi dito, ang departmentalization by geographic region ay namuong grupo depende sa lugar o teritoryo na nasasakop. For example, Schulig, a major pharmaceutical company, has its domestic sales departmentalized by region, such as Northeast, Southeast, Midwest, Southwest, and Northwest in Ilocos region. The second to the list is departmentalization by process. Departmentalization by process groups jobs on the basis of product or customer flow. Each process required a particular skill and offer a basis for homogeneous categorizing of work activities. A patient preparing for an operation would first engage in preliminary diagnostic. Sabi dito, ang departmentalization by process, ito ay nakagrupo na base sa daloy ng produkto o customer. Kada proseso ay may pangangailangan na kakayahan ng isang tao para sa mga pantrabahong gawain. Last is departmentalization by customer. Departmentalization by customer groups job on the basis of a common set of needs problems of a specific customer. For instance, a plumbing firm by group its work according to whether it is serving a private sector, government, or not for profits organization. Ang departmentalization by customer, ito ay nakagrupo depende sa klase ng pangangailangan o problema ng isang customer. Yun lang po ang aking report. Salamat po.
Organizational principles. These principles provide basic guidelines that are useful when designing and structuring various organizational activities. Definition of objectives. The objective serves as the guide to future planning and action. It integrates policies, projects, and programs. It enables everybody in the organization to act consistently in accomplishing a common goal. Example of definition of objectives principle. If you own a comic book store, one example of a sales objective could be to increase your monthly sales by 10% over the course of the year. To do this, you may have to implement a marketing strategy to attract new buyers or introduce new items that will allow you to upsell to your existing customers. Span of control. The number of subordinates an individual is able to supervise effectively. Organizational units are used because of the limitations of both human ability and time. Span of control principle. It is very important to understand span of control and organizational structure when describing an organization. Simply, span of control refers to the number of subordinates under a manager's direct control. As an example, a manager with 5 direct reports has a span of control of 5. Span of control is a good metric to assess the efficiency of an organization, as long as it looked at in the context of the company's organizational structure. Chain of command. The formal identification of who reports to whom within the organization is known as chain of command. The chain is a series of superior-subordinate relationships. Chain of command principle. The definition of a chain of command is an official hierarchy of authority that dictates who is in charge of whom and of whom permission must be asked. An example of chain of command is when an employee reports to a manager who reports to a senior manager, who reports to the vice president, who reports to the CEO. The CEO makes final decisions binding on everyone, followed by the vice president, and so on down to the line. Unity of command. The unity of command principle states that an employee should be directly responsible to only one supervisor. Example of unity of command principle. The HR team of a company will have just one supervising head instead of 2 or 3 to have an orderly setup in the work atmosphere. With the help of the unity of command principle, there is a proper hierarchy which is set in the company. Just imagine a scenario where you are the CEO of the technology firm in Silicon Valley. There might be some board of directors who are responsible for governing the company and the policies that it has as well. This helps in the strategic planning too. With the unity of command in effect, you don't have to answer to all the different members who are present on the board. You shall be answerable to just the chairman. Division of work. Division of work, specialization, produces more and better work with the same effort. It focuses effort while maximizing employee efforts. It is applicable to all work, including technical applications. There are limitations to specialization, which are determined by its application. Example of division of work. Can you remember the last time that you went to a restaurant for carry-out? More than likely, and for pure convenience, you probably used the drive-thru window. How many people did it take to complete your order from start to finish? Let's see. The first order of business was to have someone take your order. Once that was completed, your order was submitted to the cooks. The cooks made your meal and placed it on the counter. Someone working the counter collected your food and placed it in a bag to hand to you out the window. Another person handed the bag out the window. Those are the different steps that were taken to fully complete one task. It is also a perfect example of the division of work. The division of work is the course of tasks assigned to and completed by a group of workers in order to increase efficiency. Authority and responsibility. Authority is the right to give orders and the power to exact obedience. Distinction must be made between a manager's official authority deriving from office and personal authority, created through individual personality, intelligence, and experience. Authority creates responsibility. Example of authority and responsibility. Authority refers to the official capacity to make a decision or take an action. For example, a manager might have the authority to make a hiring decision, decide to spend a certain amount of money on something, choose a supplier, set deadlines and priorities, or sign a purchase order. A secretary might have the authority to sign certain documents, schedule meeting rooms, or issue purchase orders for routine restocking of office supplies. Salespeople might have the authority to offer certain specific discounts to customers, while responsibility means having a certain duty or obligation with a concomitant consequence for success or failure. A project manager may be responsible for the completion of a project in time and under budget. Discipline. Obedience and respect between a firm and its employees based on clear and fair agreements is absolutely essential to the functioning of any organization. Good discipline requires managers to apply sanctions whenever violations become apparent. Discipline principle. A disciplined employee will be organized, and an organized employee will be disciplined always. Discipline in an organization ensures productivity and efficiency. It encourages harmony and cooperation among employees as well as acts as a moral booster for the employees. In absence of discipline, there will be chaos, confusion, corruption, and disobedience in an organization. In short, discipline implies obedience, orderliness, and maintenance of proper subordination among employees. Work recognition, fair and equitable treatment of employees, appropriate salary structure, effective grievance handling, and job security all contribute to organizational discipline. Therefore, discipline means securing consistent behavior in accordance with the accepted norms of behavior. Unity of direction. Organizational activities must have one central authority and one plan of action. Unity of direction principle. One head and one plan for a group of activities with the same objective. All activities which have the same objective must be directed by one manager, and he must use one plan. This is called unity of direction. For example, all marketing activities such as advertising, sales promotion, pricing, policy, etc. must be directed by only one manager. He must use only one plan for all the marketing activities. Unity of direction means activities aimed at the same objective should be organized so that there are one plan and one person in charge. Subordination of individual interests to general interests. The interests of one employee or group of employees are subordinate to the interests and goals of the organization and cannot prevail over it. Subordination of individual interest to general interest principle. For example, if a manager takes some decision which harms him personally but results in a great profit to the company, he should certainly give priority to the interests of the company and take the decision accordingly. On the contrary, if some decision helps the manager personally but results in a great loss to the company, then such a decision should never be taken. Another example, a purchase manager of a company has to purchase 100 tons of raw material. His son happens to be a supplier along with other suppliers in the market. The manager purchases the raw material from the firm of his son at a rate higher than the market rate. This will profit the manager personally, but the company will incur heavy loss. This situation is undesirable. Remuneration of personnel. Salaries are the price of services rendered by employees. It should be fair and provide satisfaction both to the employee and employer. The rate of remuneration is dependent on the value of the services rendered as determined by the employment market. Remuneration of personnel principle. For example, suppose that the things are getting dearer and dearer, and the company is getting good profits. In such a situation, the remuneration of the employees should be increased even without their asking. If this is not done, the employees will leave the company at the first opportunity. Expenses shall have to be incurred on new recruitment which shall bring loss to the company. Centralization. The optimum degree of centralization varies according to the dynamics of each organization. The objective of centralization is the best utilization of personnel. Centralization principle. For example, the decisions in respect of determining the objectives and policies, expansion of business, etc. should remain in the hands of the superiors. On the other hand, authority for the purchase of raw material, granting leave to the employees, etc. should be delegated to the subordinates. Scalar chain. A chain of authority exists from the highest organizational authority to the lowest ranks, while needless departure from the chain of command should be discouraged. Using the gangplank principle of direct communication between employees can be extremely expeditious and increase the effectiveness of organizational communication. Scalar chain principle. For example, in a company, the employee F wants to have contact with the employee P. According to the principle of scalar chain, F shall have to reach A through the medium of E, D, C, and B, and then having contact with L, M, and O shall reach P. Thus, F shall have to take the help of all the steps to have business contact with P. Gangplank. It is the exception of the principle of scalar chain. This concept was developed to establish a direct contact with the employee of equal rank in case of emergency to avoid delay in communication. For example, employee F can have direct contact with employee P, but for doing so, employees F and P shall have to seek the prior permission of their immediate bosses E and O. The details of their talk also shall have to be given to them. Order. Organizational order for materials and personnel is essential. The right materials and the right employees are necessary for each organizational function and activity. Order principle. According to the principle of order, a right person should be placed at the right job and a right thing should be placed at the right place. For example, an employee working in a factory should know the place or source from where he can get his tools in case of need. Similarly, he should know the place where his supervisor will be available in case of any need. It is, however, important to note that it is not sufficient to have an allotted place for a toolbox and for the supervisor, but the availability of both at their decided place is absolutely important. If this is not the case, it can lead to a heavy loss as a result of damage to the machines. Equity. In organizations, equity is a combination of kindliness and justice. The desire for equity and equality of treatment are aspirations to be taken into account in dealing with employees. Equity principle. This principle tells that the managers should treat their subordinates in a just and kind manner, so that they develop a feeling of dedication and attachment for their work. All the employees should be treated equally and impartially. Fayol tells us in connection with this principle that there should not be any equality of treatment between a person whose work is really good and the person who is a shirker by nature. For example, individuals performing similar jobs in a factory are paid at the same wage rate. Stability of tenure of personnel. In order to attain the maximum productivity of personnel, it is essential to maintain a stable workforce. Management insecurity produces undesirable consequences. Generally, the managerial personnel of prosperous concerns is stable. That of unsuccessful ones is unstable. Stability of tenure of personnel is a principle stating that in order for an organization to run smoothly, personnel, especially managerial personnel, must not frequently enter and exit the organization. Consequently, an organization must take steps to obtain as much stability in its management and workforce as possible. For example, if a new employee is appointed, then the employee must be given time to settle down and to adapt in the new environment and working conditions. Initiative. Thinking out a plan and ensuring its success is an extremely strong motivator. At all levels of the organizational ladder, zeal and energy on the part of employees are augmented by initiative. Initiative principle. For example, a salesman suggests to his sales manager to implement a new advertisement technique. The sales manager sends him away by telling him that it is not possible and ignores the suggestions altogether. In such a situation, the salesman who has been admonished and belittled will never venture to offer any suggestion in future because his desire of taking initiative has been suppressed. On the contrary, If his suggestion had been listened to carefully, even though not to be implemented, he could have taken the courage to offer some suggestion in future. Such an action would simply have encouraged his initiative. Esprit de corps. Teamwork is fundamentally important to an organization. Creating work teams and using extensive face-to-face verbal communication encourages this. Esprit de corps. As per this principle, a manager should continuously make efforts to develop a team spirit among the subordinates. To do this, he or she should use the word we during the conversation with subordinates. An example of esprit de corps is a group marching to bring awareness to a current issue.